Hi everyone, my name's Taylor from Allure Event Planning. I am the owner of Allure Event Planning and I will be walking you through today's YouTube video. So I'm super excited you picked a tent wedding. It's going to be really awesome, especially because there's only like a couple good months of weather in Buffalo. So it's a really awesome idea to take advantage of it. And the tent gives you a really cool opportunity to have kind of like an indoor-outdoor feel. So you have all of the great aspects of being outdoors, like the sunshine and hopefully the warmth if you're doing it in the summer, but all the comforts of kind of being indoors. So that means toilets. One thing to keep in mind with tent weddings, though, is that you don't necessarily get everything just coming with the venue like you normally do with a banquet hall wedding or even a barn wedding, really. You're going to want to keep in mind that sometimes if you don't ask for everything that you want, you're just going to get the tent. Like a blank slate. White walls. Just a tent. Poles in the middle, maybe. No chairs, no tables, no lighting, nothing, just a blank tent. So it can be really kind of scary to go from this big, elaborate, beautiful vision you have in your head of flowers hanging from the ceiling and this giant farm table and all these beautiful linens and lounge setups and all these things to like a blank tent. But have no fear, I will walk you through the steps and we will get you there, I promise. So the first step is to reserve your tent early. Think of your tent as your venue, so you're going to want to do it around the same time. Make sure before you reserve your tent, though, you go and look at the location that you're putting it down on. So whether this is a place that typically has tent weddings or your grandparents' backyard on their farm, you want to check out the space. So things you're going to want to pay attention to when you do your site visit is how big the space is, how shaded or in the sun the space is, and what the ground is like. Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it on a slope? These are all things to consider for your tent. So the biggest and most important part is to nail down your tent and reserve it, and it's professional installation early in the game, because that's going to give you the foundation, or really the roof, to plan the rest of your wedding around. Now when you go to reserve your tent, you're going to want to know what size and what kind of tent you want. So this is a good time to look at your guest list. On average, 18 square feet per person for a sit-down dinner and dancing is going to be sufficient. You're going to want to block in more space if you want a dedicated cocktail area or a ceremony under the tent as well, or if you're having like lounge setups or like a cigar bar, something fancy that's going to take extra space. It's going to need more than 18 square foot per person. Another thing you're going to want to consider is the poles, because they kind of take up space and you might have to adjust your floor plan based on that. Now, you don't necessarily have to pick a tent with poles. There's a lot of different kinds of tents. You have your frame tent, clear top tent, sailcloth tent, engineered structured tent, double-decker tent if you're really fancy, and an evolution dome tent if you want a more igloo kind of style feel thing. Hit me up if you want to do that, because I'm totally down for that. So think about what kind of style of tent you want and what the vendors near you offer. That's going to kind of inform your tent booking decision, if you will. And keep in mind, if you want to make a digital floor plan, wedding planners can help you with that, so they can make a to-scale version of how you're going to set up the tables and the rest of the space under the tent. I'm happy to help with that. The third thing you're going to want to know is your venue specifications. Now, if it's at your grandparents' backyard, probably not a concern. But if it's at a specific venue, you're going to want to know what their regulations are and what's included in their package. You're going to want to know, firstly, if you're able to set up the tent ahead of time. This is really helpful because then the tent will shield the ground below it from rain in the days before the wedding, helping to eliminate a really muddy, icky situation under the tent. Other things you're going to want to know is if there's a place for the caterer to set up. A lot of established venues have a kitchen or a small area kind of like that to fit the needs of the caterer. If they don't have something like that and your caterer is unfamiliar with the venue, they're oftentimes more than happy to come tour the space with you so they can make sure that all of their specification needs are there so that they can cater the wedding for you. Other things you're going to want to take note of is how far parking and bathrooms, or the location where you're going to put a trailer for bathrooms, because yes, bougie porta potties are a thing now. They have them with fireplaces and air conditioning and music and televisions and marble. It's better than some public bathrooms I've been to. So take into consideration how far the tent is going to be from ceremony, bathrooms, and parking. This is important to take note of because you gotta think about your guests walking back to their cars or the bathrooms at night in the dark in heels. So if the pathways are not passable or they're dark, you're gonna wanna think about a plan for lighting them. Or if they're really far, you might want to consider renting a golf cart, especially if you have people that might have mobility issues as well. You're also going to want to talk to your venue about power supplies. If there isn't enough electricity to power the band and lighting and possibly heat or air conditioning and various other things like caterers, supplies, you're going to need to invest in a generator. Probably going to need to rent a generator either way. My fourth tip is to think about weather that you might encounter, either hot or cold. If you're thinking that there might be inclement weather, especially when the sun goes down, there's going to be a drastic change in weather when the sun goes down, you might want to think about purchasing sides for your tent. This way, if you put heating or air conditioning or fans inside of the tent, it will help to keep the climate different from the outside and you'll have a nice hospitable environment for your guests. And my last and final tip is know what additional items you're going to need to rent. A lot of venues in Buffalo include tables, chairs, linens, flatware, dishware in the cost of renting there. Now, with a tent, that might not be the case, so you might just assume or forget that those things aren't included. So you're gonna want to make sure that that's included in your quote from the tent vendor. I know it might seem like a lot of details, but just take it one step at a time. The really great part about having a tent wedding is you get to enjoy the outdoors, and it's also a really wonderful blank slate for you to put your mark on. You can do whatever kind of style you want, so just take it one step at a time. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to help you. My website is allureevent.com, and you can email me at hello@allureevent.com. And I'd love it if you hit subscribe or like this video if you enjoyed my tips. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye. This is something to talk over with the venue? Oh my god. Wow. Take into consideration because your guests will let the car move. You're also going to want to talk over noise ordinances. Oh my god. Someone help me. Talk to your venue about noise ordinances. And anyway.